Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahaihi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. If you have to still mute, so I can do it from here. It's fine. So we are on chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, imperishable Brahman, Akshara Brahman, and we were on verse 9, and it is a very, very important one, 9 and 10, and there are many favorites in Bhagavad Gita, but these are my favorites too, one of them. I have many, and we were going through different words and what it means. So just to recap, it's even in meditation, we can, if somebody say, how do I start? You can start with remembering these. That's how important they are. So it's Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniya Samanusmaredya Sarvasya Dhata Ramachintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamsa Parastat. So we had gone up to Achintya Rupam, but we'll just quickly recap what they are, and then we'll go in detail what is Aditya Varnam Tamsa Parastat, and then we'll read Swamiji's commentary today. So Kavi word in Hindi language, is poet, but here it has a very deep meaning. It means omniscient, knows everything, and we went in detail what it means. And that's one word that every religion uses. God is omniscient. And then the next word was Puranam. So just the word meaning, ancient, but this has a lot bigger meaning than that. पुराना होते हुए भी नया जो होता है उसको बोलते हैं पुराणम. So जो हमेशा नया दिखता है, something like that, or is eternal. That's the final meaning we draw out of this. Just like Suryodaya, when we see every day it looks new, even though it's the most ancient from the earth perspective. So like that, we have to understand that. And then Anushasitaram, that this is Anushasan, like a controller, the ruler of the world, but not in a very negative way that, punishing everybody, not like that, but it controls everything. The laws of nature, everything has come from him. Law of karma, law of nature, that's how it's the ruler. And then Anoraniyam means smaller than the smallest, or minuter than the minutest, or subtler than the subtlest. All of these things come under this. So we cannot grasp, this Bhagwan like this with our some instrument or something, because it's smaller than even atom, because everything has come from it. So, and then other way of looking at it, the subtlest thing that we know is space, and space has also come from there. So it's subtler than the space also. Anusmaret was, one who remembers thus, anybody who meditates like this, uska kya hoga, that this verse is connected with actually 10. But here right now we're just understanding what each word means in its depth through, all the different Mahatmas, their analysis of it, because very deep. Because Bhagavad Gita is a subtle subject and we have to go deep into it. And then Sarvasya Dhataram. It's a support of everything. So this and ruler, all these are connected, and support, and in a sense that without this foundation, you have nothing. That's what it means. And Swamiji is also going to give some examples. Examples are the best way to understand this concept. And the best example is gold and gold ornaments without gold, you cannot have gold ornament. So that's why it is a support of it. Or, mud and mud pots, or ocean and waves. The waves cannot be waves until it's supported by the ocean. So like that we have to think. And then after thinking about all these things, Krishna Bhagwan says, Achintya Rupam. You cannot think about it. This really puts some water on everything. But we have to understand what it means. And I was thinking that some of the examples I've heard over the years are very good one, and you will probably, all of you will connect with it. It's like, the instruments that we have, they are not the right instrument to grasp it. That's what it means. So it's something like you cannot change a tire with just a mere screwdriver. If you have a punctured tire and all you have is a screwdriver, you cannot go out and change your tire. You need some proper equipment. And the other example is, hey, if I want to stitch some cloth, तो तलवार लेके मैं नहीं stitch कर सकती. I need a needle. I need a very barik thing, even though it's made of the same material. So this drives the point that buddhi does have a role. Without a sukshma and pure buddhi, we cannot reach there. But then you have to transcend it also. That's what it means. So these instruments have to be transcended. And, when we go to Aditya Varnam, there is some explanation over there also, and we will see by, the Swamis and all that, and we'll go into it. And that will become more clear, because all these are kind of related to each other. So that's how we have to look at it. Because if we understand one properly, then we'll understand the other one also, because they all kind of merge into each other, the meanings. So now we will go more in detail about Aditya Varnam. This is also very, very important. Aditya Varnam and then Tamsa Parasta. They are connected. So Aditya Varnam is, when one of the biggest problem that all of us have when we are, the moment we say Achintya Rupam, if I don't have buddhi, how will I recognize Bhagwan, or how will I recognize that? So it is like the sun. Aditya is sun. Varnam is like nature of the sun. That to see the sun, we don't need any other light. That is one of the most important points we have to draw from it. That, to see sun, हम लोग दिया लेके sun को नहीं देखते, because I don't need any other light. Sun itself is self-effulgent. In fact, everything that we see in the world is a borrowed light from the sun. That's how we see it. Even if somebody says, I turned the light on, the energy has come from sun only to turn my light on. So, same way. That's what basically it means, that when we say Aditya Varna, but there's lot more to it, and we will go into that. So, taking the same example, the self does not need any other knowledge to recognize it. You recognize it, and how it happens, that, Nikhilananji explained it very well, so we'll go more into it. And the other connotation over here is Aditya Varnam, because knowledge is always, उसका जो example देते हैं ना knowledge का, वो light से देते हैं. We call it light of knowledge, And these days, there's a lot in the news about that the India, they want to they want to go to the original name Bharat officially also. And Bharat means the one who revels in light of knowledge. So light of knowledge is always connected with physical light also. So that means when we say that nature of light means nature of knowledge, and that is nature of consciousness. It's pure knowledge. So, and then we discussed that we don't need any other light. So that's why we don't need all our equipments, and our main equipments are senses, mind, and intellect. These are the three things. So because we don't need them, in fact, sometimes they can become a hindrance in knowing God. Because, I still remember there was one, saint. She was a woman, and I asked her in the early stages when I was trying to understand about this thing, that, hey, what does a buddhi do? What is the role of a buddhi? So she said, buddhi always divides. We don't think of it that way. The moment something comes in front of a buddhi will say, comparing. Oh, ye theek nahi hai, wo theek hai. And it's dividing, and you are trying to go towards oneness. It's exactly opposite of what buddhi does. So I said, wow, I never thought about it that way. So that's why they say that buddhi is not the right equipment, because it will take you in some other angle only. And some of the Upanishads have these kind of verses that, too much knowledge, it takes you in a darkness. It's very strange, but it makes you think why. So that's why it is that you have to transcend it. And then when you transcend it, you come to know God. And then Nikhilananji gave this very beautiful example. He said, how do I understand this? He gave an example of a dream. He's saying, suppose you're lying on your bed very comfortably, and then you go into the dream world. And then you dream that you are in the garden somewhere, right? Taking a stroll in the garden. Suppose in the dream, somebody comes and says, hello, actually you are not in the garden. You are actually sleeping on the bed. At that time, in that dream, you will say, no, what are you talking about? I can smell the flowers. I'm picking the flowers. I'm not sleeping on the bed. You will not believe that person. But then how will this happen? When you wake up, somebody shakes you up and you wake up, and then you will know, Arey, yeah, I am on the bed. But has the person changed? No. He's the same person. He just got awakened. Now apply the same thing to this, that, hey, how will I understand God or who I am? Hey, I'm kind of asleep because I'm in this world which is like swapna-like, and now somebody's saying, hey, that's not your real nature. So what are you talking about, So you have to awaken first. So the example, you can stretch it a little bit. The guru comes and shakes you up. Hey, hello, you are not this, and then you, for some God's grace, if you wake up, then the same I becomes God. Okay, now I realize, that, hey, this is what it is. So the term they use in Vedanta is that ego. Ego is the one that get dissolved. And this whole process is for that. And then God, as though God arises over there, and because ego is dissolved. And I think Anilji was saying about it that, God plus Maya is like the world. If you take Maya away, you become God. Or there are so many other ways you can look at it. And so then you realize I'm Brahman. So basically what we are trying to do right now is that we are told by all these saints and sages who have experienced that, hey, you are Brahman. And we are kind of striving to realize that. Because we have Shraddha and we are believing them, If you just go by the worldly things, you won't even believe it. But we are listening to these people and, or Krishna Bhagwan and all that. So then what happened to a realized master? He just realizes that it was a mistake in thinking that I'm a limited being. That's what happens to, these saints and sages. And I'm sure you have heard of this sentence. I like it a lot, where it says, we always say that we think that we are human beings having a spiritual experience. That's what we say, no? Oh, I felt this, or I'm having a spiritual experience. But the saints and sages say the exactly opposite. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. So that's the key thing over here that they're talking about. And let's see, some other points were there by Nikhilananji. Yes, so now going to the tamasa parasta thing, there is a limited in this, there is a limitation, in this particular example of Aditya Varnam. That's why Krishna Bhagwan had to come with tamasa parastat. And it is a little bit subtle thing, so I'll try my best to explain it. He's saying that the sun itself does not know any darkness. बोलते हैं ना कि जहाँ light है वहाँ darkness नहीं हो सकती. So the sun does not recognize darkness because उसमें कभी हुई नहीं darkness. So it doesn't know what darkness is. But we through the light of consciousness, understand both. We understand what is light and what is darkness. So in a technical term, both are illumined by this consciousness. Okay? So consciousness is beyond that light and dark, but I understand light and dark both. But in the pure sunlight, sun, it doesn't understand darkness. So that's why it's a tamasa parastat. You can look at it very. Tamasa means darkness. Parastat means beyond. So this, Brahman is beyond darkness. So there are two ways of looking at it. One is, he is beyond ignorance. Usme ignorance hai nahi. So it is pure knowledge. And the other way to look at it is that I understand in the light of consciousness and through my intelligence, which is illumined by that consciousness, I understand light and dark both, knowledge and ignorance both. I know what I know, and I also don't know what I don't know. See what I'm saying? I hope that this is something you have to contemplate about. I thought it was quite amazing, the way they explained. And then one more thing he brought out, Nikhilanandji, which was very interesting. He said that to understand, everything, we need mind and intellect together. That's why, we have this something called feelings and bhavna, we call it, right? When it comes to pure AI, it doesn't have that. And that's the biggest difference. And in this world, that's why AI can never rule over humans, because humans have some ability that the AI does not have, even though there are all these horrible sci-fi movies that one day they're going to take over and all that. I don't think so. Humans are smarter. They will come ways to combat that, So he was just saying that you have to feel what you understand, and you have to understand what you feel. And if both are not together, then the whole thing becomes a hallucination. So, hey, how is that? So he's saying that if you're just feeling something, but you're not understanding it, then it's not complete. Then you're hallucinating. And the other thing is, when you understand something, but you don't feel it, then it is, again, not complete. And that's why Swamiji always says you need head and heart, both, to fly in meditation. Otherwise, if you have just go towards one, it's going to be a lopsided thing. It's like a bird flying with one wing. It's going to go in circles. Yeah, that's the best example here. So you need both. So that's what these are very deep things, Aditya Varnam and Tamasa Parastat, but they're very, very subtle points and very interesting points. So what he was saying is that when we constantly remember Brahman with all these pointers, and remember, each one is just a pointer toward that direction. It's not like a complete definition, but they are also true in a partial way. So that's why you have to churn on this. And then the way he put it, that, when you transcend your ego, then you will know yourself by yourself. And what does that mean, yourself by yourself? That you don't need any other object or instrument. And the other very, very good example is when the river merges into the ocean. He said that once the river merges into the ocean, the water mixes like that. You don't even know what is ocean, what is river. Nobody can tell. Ganga ho, koi Saraswati, any nadi, if it goes into the ocean, it's called the ocean. So same way that when you transcend this ego, then you become yourself, that Brahman, and that's why you recognize yourself. And I think there was a poetry that somebody had put on our chain where how the river is so fearful before it enters the ocean. It trembling with fear, doesn't know what it is, and then it becomes the ocean, it becomes so happy, So same way, this is how we have to look at it. So I think I had mentioned that this verse 9 and 10 are so important that our Gurudev, when we read our commentary, we will see that he said that if everything get destroyed of Vedanta, if these two verses are there, it is an essence. Itna important diya do verses ko, And the 10th verse is actually gives how to reach that state. 9 verse is giving the indicators, and 10th verse gives us the technique actually. How to remember God, or it's called even the samadhi or nirvikal samadhi, jisko bolte hain na, highest level of samadhi. How to reach that, there are some pointers. So that's what these words are. And before we read Swamiji's commentary, anybody has any question or a comment? I want to add anything to these meanings? Okay. Any volunteer to read? Yes, Samiji.
Going back to this tamasaha parastat. Yes, by any chance, I may be wrong, but just the intuitive thought that parastat is like defeating. And so all this Aditya Varnam is tamasaha parastat, it defeats the darkness that one has. Does it by any chance mean in Sanskrit?
Yeah, I'm sure that what you're saying is true. So, this is what happens. Sometimes, the one word cannot bring out the whole concept. And, it gives a little indication, and you have to hear 3-4 words. It's just like Om. Om is such a small word, and there's a whole Upanishad on it, and you can go on, and that also doesn't cover all the sound part of it, and this and that. So like that, you are right. So that's why he was saying that it's beyond darkness. That's what, here Swamiji has put, beyond darkness. But जिसमें ignorance है ही नहीं, इसीलिए बोला ignorance को defeat कर दिया. But then because he compared it to sun first, Aditya Varanam, and sun I was saying, no, he does not understand what darkness is, but we in our intelligence understand what darkness means. That, hey, we know that this is light, this is darkness, but when there is a complete light, that entity does not understand what darkness. That's why they have to put both. So sometimes the two words flow into each other. You understand each one and then take it together, then the meaning comes out. That's how I look at it.
I was just taking the Hindi word parast.
Yeah, parast kar dena. So
defeating.
Yes, true. So उसको वो ये word use किया, लेकिन उसको बड़े trick के साथ use किया. And sometimes it has happened in our class, and even in Chinmaya Mission children's class has happened. Sometimes they, कोई example दिया किसी ने, and then if you start over analyzing the example, again the problem comes. So then the whole, what I learned over the years is, you take the gist and drop the example. If you don't do that, again you'll be. That's why they say that बुद्धि का एक ही रोल होता है, but थोड़ा सा, ज़्यादा नहीं तो गड़बड़ हो जाता है इसमें, ये वाले सब्जेक्ट में. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Thank you.
Okay. So, who is my volunteer today? Otherwise, I have to call up among my usual readers. I'm giving a chance to anybody who wants to read. Okay, Anilji, you're on. It's very long, so if you do get tired, then maybe Meena ji and Sushil ji or somebody can take over.
All right. Whosoever meditates upon the omniscient, the ancient, the ruler of the whole world, minuter than the atom, the supporter of all, of form inconceivable, effulgent like the sun, and beyond the darkness of ignorance. By holding the mind constantly in the contemplation of the self, the devotee was promised that the devotee can develop in himself such a powerful and divine trait that at the time of its departure, it can easily come to entertain easily the thoughts of the divine. By a very subtle implication, it was also suggested in two previous stanzas that even while continuing to live in the present embodiment, the seeker can reach a point where the death for egocentric life happens. Such a total annihilation of ignorance created misconceptions, and the consequent vanities can be successfully accomplished by the seekers only when their minds get totally withdrawn from their attachments to the false matter envelopments through the process of continued contemplation upon the self.
So over here, just wanted to bring out one very important point that, Swamiji, Chinmayananji, he gives a lot of importance to Jivan Mukti. Because he's saying at the time, you don't have to wait till the time of death, because sometimes we take prayan kale or ant kale, we take it as death. No, he's talking about death of ego, and his next verse he's going to very, very strongly say that. In fact, he will go as far as saying is, hey, when we are dying, because next verse is going to say, it's like in meditation, how you're supposed to bring the pranas in the middle and all this. When you're dying, you won't be able to do all those things. So they cannot be just talking about that. So he's just saying that we have to develop all these things while we are alive, and you can actually reach this state while you are alive over there. And you can have a total annihilation of ignorance related created conceptions. And here you can come up with this word parastat, jo aapne bola na Samir ji, ki you can defeat the ignorance while you are still in the body. That's what he's trying to say. With all the tips that Krishna Bhagavan has given, we can accomplish that. That's what he's trying to say. And then he says that total withdrawing from the attachments of false matter envelopments. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the senses, Go beyond that. We can do it. Sorry. Boliye.
At that point, that's where the intellect comes in. It discriminates and tells it. Attachments, how do we detach ourselves?
Yes.
That's how.
Yeah. So, even though hum log hamesha sunte, right. Go ahead. What were you saying?
It's very important. Attachment has because that's where the sadhak comes in. That's how become a sadhak of this. Because you can attach, where discriminate is the more, to me, that was very important. The intellect has a very important role in that way.
Right. So what we understand from going this far in now chapter 8, usko intellect is very good equipment, लेकिन उसको pure बनाना पड़ेगा, उसको सूक्ष्म बनाना पड़ेगा, So we have to make it subtle and pure. Without that, it'll be useless for us. So, and then what you said is so true, because the moment we keep hearing that, hey, transcend the intellect, so then why do I even need it? No, you need it to get to that stage, And the best example that I've heard that, if I want to take a plane, I have to go to the airport for the flight. The plane cannot come to my house. So the intellect has to be taken to a point from where you can take off. And the other very good example is people who do high jump, they take the help of a pole to jump over. Without that pole, they cannot reach that height. So you are absolutely right. So we have, when they say transcend, and transcending can only happen with pure and subtle mind. Otherwise you will be stuck into it. Like this World Wide Web, usi mein ghumte rahenge hum log, So you got to make, so true what you said. Yeah.
In the preceding stanza, it was also vaguely hinted that the contemplation of the self must be as supreme, resplendent Purusha. If I am advised by somebody to meditate upon or think out the possibility of oxygenerating, it will be impossible for me, however wise a man I might be, unless I know what that is. Merely on a name, no consistent contemplation is possible. Oxygenerating is merely a word constituted of letters. It means nothing. It is only a rounded sound represented by a few letters of the alphabets. Similarly, if I am advised by a Shastra to meditate upon the supreme resplendent self, it can only be as futile as to think over the possibilities of oxygenerating geniality.
So why he's bringing that up, very, very important. There were 2 points. One is going back to even chapter 6. After telling everything about meditation, Krishna Bhagavan says, go meditate upon the self. And then if you don't know what self is, how can I meditate? Or, love God. Hey, I don't know who God is. How can I love him? That's where the whole thing is coming. And then he's bringing this point in this verse when he says, Divyam, go back to it, Paramam Purusham Divyam. You will reach that Paramam Purusham. Who is that Paramam Purusham? It's very easy to say Paramam Purusham Divyam, but then these are the definition of Paramam Purusham Divyam. That's what he's pointing at. That he is Kavim, Puranam, Anushasitaram, all these things, and then these things are going to keep opening up now till we go to chapter 15. It's going to be so much more detail about who God is. So that's what he's talking about. So once I know the meaning, then I can then I know, then I have the reverence, then I have the tools to meditate, then I have everything. I have to know who God is first.
In a practical textbook of instruction as to how Vedanta can be lived, Lord, the singer of Geeta, has to provide Arjun with sufficient material indicating the line of contemplation to be taken by the meditators. The 2 stanzas now under review give an exhaustive design for the ordinary to make themselves successfully and profitably disciplined.
So उन्होंने पूरा वेदांत का निचोड़ डाल दिया इस 2 में. That's what he's trying to say. So here now he's enough sufficient material for contemplation. So when anybody, when we come to a point, hey, people ask each other, hey, do you meditate? Maybe. How do I do that? Here it is. Go to these 2 verses, understand that you have a sufficient material to meditate upon. Who? Here it is. Yes.
The stanza as it stands uses the terminologies which are similar in the literature of the Upanishads, and Arjun, as a student of the Vedas, knows their imports exhaustively. Therefore, there was no need for Krishna to give lengthy discourses upon them. However, the study for these stanzas would be profitable for us only when we try to inquire and ascertain the volumes of suggestions that lie concealed in each term used here.
Okay, so there are some words that...
the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So he's just saying that, I always think about it this way. कृष्ण भगवान ने ये जो सारा ज्ञान, पहली बात तो है कि पूरा वेदों का निचोड़ इज इन उपनिषद का निचोड़ इज इन गीता, राइट? और कब दिया? जब वॉर होने वाला था, उनके पास इतना टाइम नहीं था. सो ही हैड टू गिव, जैसे हम लोग ने एक्रोनिम्स बना दिए ना कि कुछ भी होता है तो दे गिव short words, and then and this is like this actually happened. I was in Delhi and I said where is this place, this shop? He said next to MacD. So I said MacD क्या होता है? तो he said McDonald's. इंडिया में मैकडोनल्ड को MacD बोलते. So that's like the MacD over here कि भाई shortest दिया उसको. लेकिन अर्जुन was not firstly he was very intelligent, and secondly he had studied all the shastras. He just got a little mixed up like we do. कि भाई उसका actually meaning क्या है वगैरह थोड़ा side में चला गया. So that's what is he did there. Swami just reminding that this each word is very, very deep, and that's why we are going through a little more thing, because खाली ऐसे ही बोल देंगे ना कविम पुराना कुछ नहीं समझ में आएगा हम लोग को. But we gotta go and sit down, read the commentaries, think about it, and then it will sink into us. What is the meaning? That's what he's trying to say.
Just one point I wanted to make,
Yes.
Umaji, कि Arjun was very learned in scriptures. उनको सब आता था, लेकिन उसको जब असली मुसीबत पड़ी तो अप्लाई कैसे करना है वो कृष्ण भगवान सिखा रहे हैं उनको, और उनके थ्रू हम सबको कि जस्ट थियोरेटिकली आना एक बात होती है, प्रैक्टिकल एप्लीकेशन अलग चीज होती है. तो ये सबको सीखना है, आई थिंक.
यस, वो भी एक बहुत बड़ा पॉइंट है. और दूसरा क्या होता है कि जैसे चैप्टर 1 में अर्जुन ने खूब लेक्चर दिया कृष्ण भगवान को, राइट, कि भाई ये हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा, धर्मशास्त्र कोट किया, अर्थशास्त्र कोट किया, ये सब. सो जब हम लोग का मतलब होता है ना, तो हम लोग बड़े बड़े शास्त्र कोट करना शुरू कर देते हैं, उसके पीछे छुप जाते हैं, यू नो, एंड देन जो असली चीज़ है वो नहीं करेंगे. There are there's so much psychology in this that, we have to really churn upon it, that बड़े बड़े पंडित भी they get sidetracked. तो हम कौन सी खेत की मूली है, right? To keep us on the track constantly. And that's why it's so important. And so what you said is absolutely right. Firstly, we want to use the right thing at the right place, and then learn to do what we are supposed to do. And when we come into some kind of dilemma, which we do all the time, how to, and then a lot of Mahatmas, they take you even more practical way to kind of understand it. And when I was doing my study group, when I started listening to all these, so I said, wow, we are even more lucky than Arjun, because Arjun ne to सीधा, kind of सूत्र ढंग से सुना, right? Okay, now you go and fight. हम लोग के पास तो इतना सारा material है. If I don't understand something, I can Google it. I can ask question. I have Mahatmas. I have this. उस बेचारे के पास तो कुछ भी नहीं था. He has to just have faith in Krishna Bhagwan and just do it that way, So we got a lot more advantage. Firstly, we are not in a war zone like he was. हमारे wars उसके comparison में काफी छोटे मोटे हैं. So, to learn it correctly, we have to give it time. True.
To Miraji's point, there is a difference between Vidwan and Buddhiman.
Mm-hmm.
You can be Vidwan, जैसे हमारे जो बुजुर्ग थे वो कहते थे, पढ़ा लिखा बहुत है, अकल ढेले की भी नहीं है.
मैंने भी सुनी. And you know what Swamiji calls them, educated idiots or something like that.
Yeah.
He's very blunt. So he will use these words to wake you up, That, and we saw that Gyan and Vigyan. Whoever remembers chapter 7, that's what it is. Vigyan means wisdom से किया हुआ ज्ञान, means experience किया हुआ. एक बात होती है कि हम लोग को ड्राइविंग सीखनी है, तो हम लोग ने किसी को देखते हैं, किसी को कुछ करते हैं, पढ़ते हैं सारे रूल्स. जब तक व्हील के पीछे बैठेंगे नहीं और खुद ड्राइव नहीं करेंगे, तब तक हम लोग को एक्सपीरियंस नहीं आ सकता है. फिर आफ्टर अबाउट 10-15 years we are so good at it. We can do talk and we can listen to music and still drive, because we have become, expert in it because of the experience. So that's what it is. Yes.
These qualifying terms are as many different indications of the truth, though none defines it, but all indicating the principle of consciousness, which is the thrilling core that gives a similitude of life in reality to inert, unreal matter. No single term here, therefore, is to be understood as complete in itself. Geometrically, a point can be defined and indicated only with reference to two different sets of data. So too, here the inexpressible reality has been almost correctly explained with these different qualifying terms.
So, it is that example that we saw of, blind person trying to understand what is elephant. Remember, we went through that. A blind person and there are 10 of them, 10 blind people, and then they touch each part and then they describe the elephant. Hey, is that the total elephant? No, one person is, but they are not wrong also, right? That उसकी सूंड ऐसी होती है, उसकी पूंछ ऐसी रस्सी की जैसी है, and उसका पैर खंबे जैसे हैं. Everything has to be put together. So that's what he was saying, that nothing can define Brahman like that. Because, and another thing is, nobody can show you, hey, this is Brahman. We cannot see it in a test tube or anything like that. So the only way is Shravanam, that you listen or read or something like that, and then all different indicators, and then you put it all together, soak into it, and you will get a better picture of it. I will say a better picture with your intellect. Like we saw, it can give you a glimpse of it, it can give you some indication, but you cannot experience it until we come to that final stage. So that's what he's trying to say over here, that these terms, I love these terms. Because they opened it up, we understood what they're trying to say, at least to some extent, not completely. So it's very, very carefully chosen by Lord Krishna, all these terms, over here.
In short, contemplation upon the reality, though an attempt at exhaustively comprehending all the secret suggestions in the above stanza, is to prepare a mental condition in which, if that mind lives well integrated and is turned inward, it can come to pause in an atmosphere of infinite experience. Under the heading Barreling of the Thoughts, this subtle technique of meditation has been explained elsewhere.
So here, there is a book of Swamiji called Meditation and Life. In that, he has used this term barreling of thoughts. Barreling of thoughts is like, गन का बैरल होता है ना, उसको कौन सी दिशा में पॉइंट करेंगे फिर वहीं पर वो गोली छूटेगी. So he's just saying this is like taking all your thoughts which are kind of spreading in the world, bringing it together, and then kind of with the mind lived it well integrated, tuned inward, and then you have a chance of taking that flight or the infinite experience. And we have talked about it so much that even grace of God is required at the end. You can किसी ने बोला ना कि you can go and knock at the door of God, but whether he opens or not, that's his choice. So when he thinks you are ready, then only he'll open it. We might think we have done so great and all that. उनकी नजरों में भी great होना चाहिए. That's why keep getting ready, keep knocking at the door. One day it will open. That's what he's saying.
Omniscient, Kavi. The self is considered as omniscient, not in the cheap meaning in which it is generally understood by hasty readers of the lore of the Vedantas. Omniscience does not mean knowing all thoughts of all people at all times and in all places. If this were the meaning, omniscient would have been the greatest hell into which the most sinful were to be packed off. Its implications are much deeper.
That reminds me of one movie. I don't know which one it was. Maybe you guys know the name. It was a movie where this person, God gives him the power to become God for a couple of days or something. And then because he was praying to God, hey, mera ye kar de, wo kar de, and God was not listening to him or something, and he got really upset. And he said, what God, what kind of God you are, you're not listening to me. तो God ने बोला, okay, ठीक है, मैं देता हूँ तुझे power. फिर जब उसको power मिला ना, तो वो पागल ही हो गया, because he was listening to everybody's prayers in the whole world. I said, please, I can't handle this, And there is one more very, very nice drishtant about it, which I love. He's saying that there was one fellow, who was praying to God, and he asked, कि ना मेरे बेटे के लिए ये कर दे, right? And so he said, God ने बोला कि that's not possible, something, and he was getting upset with God. So God ने बोला, अच्छा मैं तेरे को एक experience देता हूँ. तो God ने अपनी hat निकाल के उसके पर रख दी. Basically क्या, उसको power दे दिया. So now when he opened his eyes with the hat, तो फिर वो तो एकदम हैरान रह गया. फिर जब वापस आया ना अपने होश में, लाइक अ ह्यूमन बना, तो उसको पूछा कि भाई क्या हुआ, तब तो तू नहीं मांग रहा था जब तेरे को गॉड का पावर दिया. तो बोला, मुझे तो सभी अपने बेटे दिखाई दे रहे थे. And in that mode I understood that what I was asking was not right. So that's what it is, the omnisciency. And there is another joke about Swamiji. One time somebody asked Swamiji, Swamiji, I've heard that, all these Mahatmas can, they are mind readers. They can, so do you know my thoughts? So Swamiji ने बोला, मैं पागल हूँ जो तेरे thoughts बैठ के देखूंगा. I don't want to pollute my mind with your bad thoughts. I don't have no such power, So that's what it is, that we should take it in the correct manner, that omnisciency where, and he's going to explain in the next two paragraphs that what it means, So these are the things that really kind of explain that what they're trying to say over here.
The conscious principle serving as the soul in an embodiment is that which illumines all the thought waves that rise in that particular mind, functioning in that given embodiment. The infinite self being one everywhere, it is the same principle that illumines all the different embodiments, all the thought experiences at all times. Just as the sun is said to be seeing everything because it eliminates all the objects on the globe, so too is the divine principle of awareness, the factor without which no knowledge is ever possible anywhere. Thus, the self is considered in terms of the world of conditioned knowledge, which we experience today, as the supreme knower who knows everything, omniscient Kavi, and without whom no knowledge is ever possible.
So now we know that what it means, that it's a substratum of everything, and without that nothing can happen, and that's why it's omniscience. And I think sun example is also a very good one. Sun is, can see everything because, the whole, our earth gets the sunlight. So that's why, so you can take it whichever way you want, but very important to understand what omniscience means.
Well, sees everything, Umaji, and I was just thinking of the reflected consciousness. So that's how it goes through that.
True.
Each one has.
So, I mean, that's why there is a difference between, we had discussed it, there's a difference between one wave and the entire ocean, or one ray of sun versus the entire sun. So true. One ray is, and when it comes and reflects somewhere, that's how I see this object. So that becomes a reflected consciousness. True. So
no, I'm saying that he talks about in everyone. It's not just that he captures everything, but is that because of the reflected consciousness going through everybody. So that's how I took it, basically. That's how we can say the sun knows everything, or the consciousness knows of everything,
Yeah.
or
that's fine too. There's no problem in it. But and sometimes, this, what does this all knowing mean? And if we go back to what we learned in the Kathopanishad, that there we don't think it that way because we feel so separate in our mind, right? That, hey, my mind is just my mind. But somewhere it is connected to that Mahanatma. It is connected to the super intelligence also. That's how some of these people can download whatever they want from this universe because they have their channel open. So, and ours is nature has kind of closed it. But once in a while when some discoveries happen through people, some great poetry and all, if you ask them how it happened, उनका योगदान बहुत कम होगा उसमें. They say, oh, मैंने किया, कुछ किया, discovery. There are firstly hundreds of people are involved behind it. And then some kind of divine phenomena happens. God wants to get some work done through you. So he opens the channels for you. So there are so many ways to looking at this omnisciency. So the way we have to understand is, one is that it is a substratum of everything, and you can look at it as a reflected consciousness. And secondly, we all are connected from the subtle level. We all are connected with each other, and it's all, there is a power and the togetherness, And that Vishwarup darshan जो उन्होंने दिया, उसका भी concept यही है. The whole universe together has a power. Our ocean has a power, but one wave does not have that much power. Yeah.
The biography of the word Kavi is very interesting as it comes down to us through the avenues of time. If the self be omniscient Kavi, then the knower of the self, who thereby becomes the self, is also to be considered as omniscient Kavi. Thus, in the language of Upanishads, the rishis came to be known by the term Kavya.
So he just saying that how in olden days maybe ऋषि को कवि कहा जाता था, और वैसे भी मतलब कवि जो होते हैं ना, they have their perception is a lot deeper than an ordinary person. That's how they become kavis, because they can see things that what we cannot. समाज में देखो, और कोई भी चीज को वो लोग बाहर निकाल के ले आते हैं, उनकी दृष्टि दूर दूर तक जाती है. सो इवन दिस वर्ड कवि जो हम ऑर्डिनरी लैंग्वेज में यूज करते हैं, उसके भी पीछे यही भाव है These are the people who can see something beyond ordinary people. Okay, so you can look at it that way too. But he's just explaining why this word, in Sanskrit they call it kavihi.
Why also Kavi can write in one line so much
Correct. Yes.
because there is so much behind that line.
Absolutely. Yes.
The rishis of the Upanishads, as teachers of Vedanta, declared the experiences of their divine moments of inspiration in a language which, of its own accord, often fell into measured rhythm and systematic rhyme. Later on, an author of metrical compositions come to be called as Kavi, the poet. 90 out of every hundreds of present-day students of Geeta, when they were asked to comment upon this line, they invariably misunderstand the term and declare that the truth is a poet, Kavi. And the remaining 10 parrot-like repeat that the term means omniscient, but unfortunately they rarely know why it is so. Such half-digested understanding of this stanza cannot serve us at all on our meditation seat.
This paragraph was not in my book. Yeah, so they added it. I think that because it's just, we have discussed it, that certain terms have become so loose in the regular language that when it comes to Vedantic meaning, people have a hard time understanding what it is. So that's why he's just reminding you. And we saw as we are going through Gita, such deep definitions are there for simple things. Even, like Nikhilananji was saying, the word God, it's so loosely used everywhere that सबके अपने definitions बन गए हैं God के, But we gotta go back to this, our Bhagavad Gita, and see what it means. And that's where all these elaborations and all help us to understand what really God means.
Ancient Puran. The self is considered as the most ancient because the eternal truth is that which was before all creation and remains the same all through the ages of existence and shall ever remain the same even after the projections of pluralism have ended to be absorbed. To indicate that this one self ever remains the same everywhere, providing a substratum even in the concept of time, it is indicated here as the ancient in Sanatana Gita 2.24.
So, we have gone in a very deep analysis of it. One is a very simple thing that, हर जगह बोलते हैं कि जब दुनिया नहीं थी तभी भी भगवान थे, जब दुनिया नहीं रहेगी तभी भगवान होंगे. So ancient हो गए कि नहीं. And then पुनरपि नवा पुराणम that's the meaning कि भाई पुराना होते हुए भी नया है. So eternal. There are so many different ways you can look at it. And, there are so many bhakti ke song likhe hue hain. And then we call it Mahakal. Like jo kaal se bhi pare ho, wo. And then I don't know in our Gita class we have discussed this or not, but in English language we have the word for the smallest unit of time that we use in everyday language, we call it second. Why it is called seconds, or 2 seconds, 5 seconds and all? We don't think about it, why it's called second. Because God is first. The time came after God. That's how it... So even English language has Vedanta in it. A lot of times we will see. So that's what it is, that this is beyond time.
The overruler, Anushastram, it is not in any way indicated here that the self is a sultan, tyrannically ruling over the world. Here the term overruler is only to indicate that if the principle of awareness were not presiding over the multiple faculties of perception, feeling, and comprehension in us, our physical, mental, and intellectual experiences could not have been harmonized into the meaningful existence of our lifetime.
So we know what it means now. We have discussed it, that it is like the principle of awareness which is behind all our perception, feeling and comprehension. So our मन, बुद्धि, हमारे जितने भी चीजें हैं, senses, ज्ञान इंद्रिया, कर्म इंद्रिया, every उसके सभी के पीछे awareness है. That's why it is. And then another very important thing is the way he mentioned that it's been harmonized into the meaningful existence. And then go back to that sutra or this shloka from chapter 7. Manigana, that this whole universe is like this necklace, pearl necklace. It is held together by that thread. That thread is that God or consciousness in a harmonized way. Even this class, we are a harmonized way. We are sitting together studying. All that is coming from that consciousness power only to keep it all together. So that's how we have to look at it. This overruler. Without that, we cannot be.
And only this keeping it all together applies to everything.
Everything in the
universe, everything.
Everything. Even in a chemical reaction, this, that, एक atom को ले लो, atom हम लोग आँख से देख नहीं सकते, पर उसके अंदर है कि नहीं 3-4 चीजें घूम रही है एक दूसरे के साथ वगैरह वगैरह. My God, it is just unbelievable. Yeah, true. Yeah. Go ahead, Meena ji.
I was just thinking, even for oneself, there has to be continuity for the experience to happen, because from the 3 different stages, everyone goes through it.
Absolutely
the waking,
right.
the dream, and that. And unless there's a continuity between each one of them, because they're different stages, one cannot enter into the other one.
Correct.
Yet there has to be continuity to say it was my experience, my dream, I did. So that's where there is a continuity. There is that thread going all along in
Yes.
everybody. In everyday experience.
So
that's how-
absolutely. We, like lot of times people say, oh, there is so much chaos in the world and so much chaos in the universe. And if you just look at it ऊपर से तो कितना violent सब कुछ लगता है ना? Like, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, black holes and पता नहीं क्या उसमें सब समा रहे हैं. Anything, whichever way you want to look at it. Explosion, supernova. But that is just at a surface level. There is a complete harmony because that destruction is required somewhere.
Yes.
Right? It's like somebody sent me some video. This man had no idea about what yoga means and all. He was criticizing. And then he was saying, oh, look at Shiva. That's a lot of destruction. Look at their gods. He destroys. So it's like, मेरे को मन किया कि बोला, अरे you are really मूर्ख, because to build anything you got to destroy. Like we got our floors done. If they didn't take out the carpet, how could they put a new one? So it's like something absolutely necessary, and one cannot happen without the other. So this concept of Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, one cannot be without the other. Because you got to create something, then you got to maintain for a while, and then it has to be annihilated for the next thing to come. And we see this whole day, we see it in our life. But we still want to compartmentalize and say, this is better, this is good. Or this Shaivism fighting with the Vaishnav people and all. It sounds so idiotic. It's like a one power, they're doing 3 different things, because that is what is necessary and that is what is happening. That's what they're representing, So that's what it is, that it is the substratum what has to be there for these things to flow. Whichever way you want to. There's so many different aspects to each point here to think about.
The overlordship mentioned here only indicates that the knowing principle of consciousness is the very essence, but for which life, defined as a continuous series of experiences, in no shape is ever possible. Without mud, the mud part cannot exist. In all parts, the mud is the overruler. Just as gold in all gold ornaments, the ocean in all waves, sweetness in all candy, so too is the self in the universe. It is in this sense that the term overruler is to be understood. To conceive of God as a mighty policeman standing with 2 keys, one made of gold to open the gates of the heavens, and the other of iron to open the doors of the hell, is barbarous concept which has nothing sacred in it to attract at least the intellectually awakened generations.
So yeah, that's exactly what Beenaji. This paragraph is not there in my book also, but and I think he has put this somewhere else, or I did read it, but right here it's not there. But anyway, that's exactly what Beenaji was saying. That for continuity we need that substratum, and uske hisab se वो overruler बताया गया. Because the moment we hear the word ruler, so kuch tyranny type of idea comes into our head. That's why he's telling you. Yeah, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, this is just a funny comment. The key to the hell is made of iron.
Yes.
Minuter than an atom, anuranyam.
Anoranyam is a word. Yeah.
Anuranyam.
Yeah.
The simplest, the smallest physical divisible particle of any element which still maintains the specific properties of that element is called the atom. Thus, it is indicated here that the self is the subtlest of the subtle. The subtler a thing, the greater is its pervasiveness. Water is considered subtler than a block of ice, and the steam gained on evaporating the water is considered subtler than the water itself. In all these stages, pervasiveness is the measuring rod of its comparative subtleties. In the Lord of the Upanishads, it is usual to consider the self as the subtlest of the subtle, which only indicates that it pervades all and nothing pervades it.
So, minuter than the atom, I was going to say that, I did my science and all in high school. Later on, I went in the commerce college, so I didn't do that much detail. But I learned a lot more science from Swamiji's commentary sometime. This definition of atom is so beautiful. I had not read it in my science class over there, that the simplest and smallest physical divisible particle of any element which still maintains a specific quality. That's called atom. Okay? I didn't even know that. It's so great. So anyway, here they are trying to tell you that, as I was saying, that छोटी से छोटी चीज जो तुम्हारे दिमाग को समझ में आती है उससे भी छोटा, लेकिन छोटा मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि इतना सा, pervasive, subtle. And the best example of subtlety is given, by Chinmayananji again in another commentary, that you take a block of ice and you keep it there. It has a specific shape and it's H2O, but in a specific shape. Then you heat it, so it becomes water. It becomes more pervasive. It can, pervade the shape of the thing it is in, a glass, a bucket, or whatever. So then it has become more pervasive. Then you continue to give it heat. A point will come, it will become like a bashp, and then it will kind of dissipate everywhere. You can't even see it. That's the subtlest out of these three, So the kind of gross, then subtle and subtlest. That's how he explained it. So when we talk about this Brahman, when we talk about subtle, the main point over here is pervasiveness, because it pervades everything. Whatever you can conceive from your mind, it pervades that. And the subtlest thing that we can conceive from our mind is the space. We don't know where it ends. We don't know, and it is one, but it is everywhere. And then the other example is that we need space to accommodate ourselves. Without space, we cannot be. Same way, consciousness accommodates everything. So there are several things you can draw out of this, but that's where it's called subtle. And the last sentence is the most important one. It pervades all and nothing pervades it. And there is one verse in, I think, Ishavasya Upanishad, where it says, hey, you think that you can be fast, the Brahman is the fastest. So somebody said, how did they say that? He's saying it's sitting there before even you start. Sitting behind it, So it's already reached there, And even scientifically, somebody made a statement that you can never catch up with life. I said, what does that mean? Because whatever we are seeing in the world or experiencing, there's a delay. We don't think about it that way. Life has already happened. If I'm looking at, say, this, whatever I'm looking outside, I'm looking at the ocean. And the picture of the ocean has to come to my mind, then I understand what ocean means. Hai ki nahi? So that is already there. And if some halchal is happening, some action is happening, some boat is going, by the time I conceive it, there is a delay. So life has already happened before. That's why it's called, you cannot catch up with life. These are all scientific facts that will, तुम्हारा दिमाग घूम जाएगा, तुम सोचोगे पर है सच एकदम. So anyway, I'm going to stop here. This is very interesting also. So even if we take very long to get this, the journey itself is very enjoyable, right? Any question, comment? Anybody wants to add anything? Yes, Samir ji.
Going back to Kavim, I think there is एक कहावत है, जहाँ रवि नहीं पहुँच सकता है वहाँ कवि पहुँच सकता है.
Yes.
That means that's beyond everything he can reach, and that's what it says what that kavi is. And
Absolutely.
That in this context, that kavi is, we know who that is, something that beyond reach.
Yeah, I think in the poetic way they say, जहाँ नहीं पहुँचे रवि वहाँ पहुँचे कवि. They rhyme it like that. Yes.
I
Absolutely.
only learned that just now because we have a friend. His name is Ravi. वो हमेशा कहते हैं जहाँ नहीं पहुँचे कभी वहाँ पहुँचे रवि.
Now you know the meaning.
वो अपना ही नाम आगे कर देते हैं. तो अब आज मुझे पता चला कि real thing is जहाँ नहीं पहुँचे रवि वहाँ पहुँचे कवि. वो उल्टा ही बताते थे हमको.
अभी उनको जाके ना ये बताना, discuss this with you कि क्या आपके नाम का मतलब क्या है. रवि का भी एक्चुअली रवि इज आदित्य वर्णम, सो रवि और कवि दोनों है यहाँ पे, और दोनों का अलग अलग उसमें से निचोड़ निकाल के निकाला गया है कि व्हाट इज ब्राह्मण.
मीरा जी
जी,
उसकी वाइफ का नाम क्या है? कविता है क्या?
नहीं बिल्कुल नहीं.
Then you would understand. She would understand.
Yeah.
Just a side humor.
Side humor to keep here. All this.
होना तो चाहिए था.
Okay, so I'm going to stop Bhagavad Gita here, and we will soak into all these great meanings for 1 week, and then we'll continue Swamiji's commentary and soak some more and enjoy it. Okay. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarvapapebhya mokshayishyami ma shuchah. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.